If you're a busy professional and you keep missing breakfast, I want you to understand something. It is probably not just a breakfast problem. It is a sign that your day is starting rushed, reactive, and already slightly out of control before you've even opened your laptop. And that matters for most busy professionals because missing breakfast does not just mean that they eat slightly less in the morning. It usually means they run on caffeine, push through the first half of the day, crash in the afternoon, snack on whatever's on the desk, and then get home starving and wonder why they keep overeating at night. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what happens when you miss breakfast, why so many professionals convince themselves that it is fine, and how to fix it without turning your morning into some unrealistic 2-hour fitness routine. Because if you do want to lose the 20 to 30 or 40 pounds, get your energy back and build a body that actually matches the level you're operating at in your career, you cannot keep starting the day in survival mode. I'm Joey, the face behind the office coach, and I spent over 10 years in the office environment myself, so I know exactly what it looks like. Waking up tired, missing breakfast because you're rushing, living on caffeine, running to Starbucks, sitting for 9 or 10 hours, grabbing whatever's quick for lunch, energy crashing mid-afternoon, getting home knackered and ordering a takeaway and then telling yourself you're going to sort it out on the Monday. For the last 4 years, I've coached over 250 professionals through this exact cycle. And what I have learned is that most people do not need more motivation, they need a better system. So this is not going to be some video of me telling you that breakfast is magically the most important meal of the day, because that would be too simplistic and lazy. But research on breakfast and weight loss is mixed, and simply adding breakfast in without controlling the rest of your diet is not automatically a fat loss strategy. But for busy professionals, breakfast is often not about magic, it's about control. It's about whether you start the day ready, prepared, and ahead of the curve, or whether you start the day chasing everything from the moment you open your eyes and wake up. So here are the 5 things that usually happen when professionals keep missing breakfast. Number 1, the first thing that happens when you miss breakfast is that you start the day reactive, and this is what most people don't realise. They think breakfast is just about food. Trust me, it's not. It's about the standards you set at the start of the day. Because if you wake up late, rushed around, check your phone, answer emails, grab a coffee, and you're door with absolutely nothing in your system, you've basically told your brain that today is going to be managed from behind and you're going to constantly be chasing your tail. Now that does not mean your whole day's ruined, not at all, but it does mean your first decision of the day wasn't intentional, it was reactive. And when you're a busy professional, this pattern right here matters because your work day is already full of other people's demands, as you already know. Emails, meetings, deadlines, calls, Teams, Slack messages, problems that were not your problem yesterday but somehow today are. So if your body has no structure before all of that comes, you are simply relying on willpower later in the day, and that's a fact. And let me tell you now, willpower is not a system. This is why I always say that fitness for professionals is not a motivation problem. It's a system design problem, but not many people really get that. Think about it like this. The question is not, can you force yourself to make good decisions when you're tired? The question needs to be, can you build a day where the right decisions are easier before life gets busy? And breakfast is often the first sign of whether that system exists or not. Now, if it doesn't, you don't need to go and shame yourself and beat yourself up about it, but you need to look at the structure of your morning and ask, am I setting my day up for success or am I just reacting to it? The second thing that happens is you start telling yourself, I'm just not hungry in the morning. How many of you have said that? Be honest, right? And for some people, that might feel that little bit true, but here is the bit that you need to understand. Sometimes you are not naturally someone who can't eat breakfast. Sometimes you've trained yourself into that current pattern. If you miss breakfast for long enough and you live on coffee, you eat later in the day, and then you have your biggest intake at night, your body adapts to that rhythm. You wake up without much appetite, and then your hunger builds later when your day is already more stressful and when your decision making is drastically weaker through making them consistently all morning. So then when someone says, I'm not hungry in the morning, I don't immediately hear that as a fixed personality trait, right? I hear that as a pattern, and thankfully patterns can be rebuilt. So why does all of this matter? Well, it matters because breakfast is not only about whether you feel hungry at 7:30 am, it's about what pattern does to the rest of your day. Because research has shown that compared with missing breakfast, eating breakfast can actually reduce morning and daily hunger, increase fullness, and reduce evening intake of high carb and high fat foods in some adults. Now, that does not mean every single person must eat a huge breakfast or full English or whatever it is. That would be lazy advice from me, but it does mean you should pay attention if your current pattern is this: no breakfast, coffee until lunch, random lunch, afternoon crash, evening overeating, and snacking, because at that point your breakfast habit is clearly connected to the whole day. And if missing breakfast helps you feel focused, eat well, train well, and stay in control, fine, that might work for you. But if missing breakfast leads to low energy, poor food choices, overeating at night, then it's not working. You are just tolerating the consequences. The third thing that happens when professionals miss breakfast is that caffeine starts doing the job food should be doing. Now this one is very common, and you probably sat there thinking, this could be me. Your ears are pricked up now, aren't they? So you miss your meals, but you do not miss your coffees. Now that is very, very, very common. You tell yourself you're fine because the caffeine gets you moving, you feel sharper for a bit, you get through the first meeting, you clear some emails, you feel like you've bought yourself some time a little bit, but Caffeine is not a meal, and it is definitely not a nutrition strategy. All it is just a stimulant. Use it properly. You know, if you do use it properly, caffeine can be useful. I mean, I love a good coffee, but when it becomes a replacement for structure, that is when the wheels start to come off, because what tends to happen is this. You do not eat, you drink coffee, you get a short-term lift, then later your energy dips, you become more irritable, your focus drops, you start looking for quick energy. That might be biscuits in the office, a meal deal, crisp, chocolate, another coffee, or whatever is going to be easiest and convenient. And again, this is not because you're weak, it's because you're trying to run a demanding day on borrowed energy from the stimulants and from the caffeine. Look, there's a difference between using caffeine as a tool and using caffeine as a replacement. If your morning is coffee instead of food, chaos instead of planning, and urgency instead of structure, then by the afternoon you are not making food decisions from a place of control, often making them from a place of depletion. And that is why so many professionals can be disciplined at work like they are, but completely inconsistent with their body. So the solution isn't to ban coffee and never have it again. That would be crazy. But the solution is to stop pretending coffee can cover for a morning with absolutely no structure. Point 4. So the fourth thing that happens when you miss breakfast is that you push the problem into the evening. This is the biggest one for fat loss, because most professionals do not overeat because they carefully plan to overeat. No one in the world's done that. They overeat because by the time they get home, they're tired, hungry, stressed, and mentally fried. So then the brain starts negotiating. Oh, I've had a long day. I deserve something nice. You know, it's been a stressful day. I'll just get something quick. I'll sort it out tomorrow. And then before you know it, the day started with I'm being good, ends with takeaway, snacks, and feeling annoyed at yourself. And this is why I don't ever like to look at meals in isolation. You cannot just ask, did I save my calories by missing breakfast? You have to ask, what did that decision do to the rest of my day? Now, you might think that's deep, but it's 100% true, because if missing breakfast saves 300 calories in the morning, but leads to an extra 800 calories at night, it was not really a win, it was just going to be a delayed problem. And for ambitious professionals, this is where the body and lifestyle transformation actually happens. Not in the most perfect weeks, not in extreme diets, not in pretending you'll never be stressed again, but it happens by building a repeatable structure that protects you from the most predictable weak points. And if evening overeating is your pattern, then your solution can only start in the evening. It has to start earlier. It starts with a better morning, a better first meal, a better plan, a better lunch, a better environment, a better standard for how you handle busy days. That does not mean you need a massive breakfast, but it means you need enough structure early in the day so you're not walking into the evening already fried and beaten up. Now, the fifth thing that happens when you miss breakfast is that you miss an opportunity to build identity early in the day. Now, what do I mean by this? It might sound very simple, but it is important. Every day, your actions are teaching you who you are. If you start the day rushed, underfed, overcaffeinated and reactive, you reinforce the identity of someone who is successful at work but always chasing the health, and you're always going to be like that. But if you start the day with one calm, intentional decision, even a small, you begin to reinforce a different identity. Someone that looks after themselves, someone who prepares, someone who has standards, someone whose body and lifestyle matches their ambition and drive. Because most professionals do not just want to lose a bit of weight, never really that. They want to feel in control again. They want to walk to work with energy. They want to stop being behind. They want to stop hiding behind baggy clothes. They want to stop feeling disappointed every time they catch themselves looking in the mirror. They want to stop having this internal ambition and drive attached to some body and lifestyle that they feel like they're constantly trying to escape from. They want it to match. And this is why breakfast matters. Not because the one meal magically fixes everything, because the way you start the day often reflects the way you're running the rest of your life. And if the morning is always chaotic, the food will usually become chaotic as well. So, Joey, what should you actually do? Well, the answer is not to copy some influencer's perfect morning routine. You don't need to wake up at 5 a.m, journal for half an hour, meditate, do a cold plunge, cook an Instagram breakfast before work. But you need a system that is built for your life, because no one else is living it. That means it has to be simple, repeatable, and realistic when work is busy. For most people, that means 3 things. First, decide in advance what your default breakfast is going to be. Not 5 options, not something that requires motivation. I always use 1 or 2 default meals that I can repeat over and over and over again without thinking about it. Second, make it protein-led. That could be Greek yogurt with fruit, eggs on toast, overnight oats, protein smoothie, protein yogurt, something simple you can prepare the night before. The exact meal doesn't really matter, it's more the fact it gives you structure and keeps you stable. And the third thing, stop waiting until the morning to decide. If you're already rushed, tired and late, you will not suddenly become organised in that moment, I'll tell you that. The decision has to be made the night before the chaos comes. So either Sunday at the start of the week or the night before. And that is the office body approach. We don't build systems for fantasy versions of your life. We build systems around your actual life, your calendar, your meetings, your commute, your stress, your family, your social life, your work demands. Because the best plan, the one that looks impressive on paper, we can all do this fancy one. The best plan is the one you can actually repeat over and over and over and over again. So if you keep missing breakfast, here's what I want you to remember. 1, missing breakfast is often a sign that your day is starting reactive. 2, I'm not hungry in the morning is often a trained pattern, not a permanent identity. 3, caffeine can support your morning, but it cannot replace a proper system. And then 4, if missing breakfast leads to overeating at night, it is not working. It's just going to be delaying the problem. And then 5, your first food decision of the day is not only calories, it's about identity, control, and the standards you are setting for yourself. So no, breakfast is not magic, but for a busy professional who wants to lose weight, regain energy, and build a body that matches their ambition, it can be one of the simplest control points you have. So if you want help building this properly around your real life, your calendar, and your work demands, you can apply below to work with us inside the Office Body system. And if you want more videos like this, breaking down how to build a body and a lifestyle that actually matches your ambition, subscribe to the channel, because you do not need to escape your life to get in shape. You need a system that works inside of it all.